There's been a lot of talk over the last couple of months here about like the face of the league, what the NBA's future looks like when LeBron and Steph and KD retire. And I think this video is really just to serve all of the stuff that I've heard over the last, month or two just about this conversation. So, the first thing I want to say is when you talk about the face of the league, there's not one. I would say in any given era, there's probably like a big five that you can point to. The consistent, like all NBA first team type of guys, those are the guys that matter. I would say in the current day, that five would be like a mix of KD, LeBron, Steph, and Jokic and Giannis. And then, because that's like the face of the league currently. If you exclude the young stars or even guys like we're going to talk about later, like Jason Tatum or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, for example, who are obviously dominating the game right now, they're still not above popularity level of like LeBron and Steph. I think KD's popularity is definitely less to the point that he's not really in that face of the league conversation, but I think you can make the argument that Steph is just as popular, if not more popular than LeBron. I think LeBron has more total fans just because of all the places that he's played, but I think Curry really inspired a generation the way Michael did. And I think that LeBron specifically, not to push any negative LeBron narratives, because I have a lot of respect for LeBron as a player, and I do think that he has inspired a generation of people. I just don't think anything that he did really changed the way that the game was played. I will say that he definitely had a contribution to like ball handlers above like 6'6", getting, the ball in their hands more often and being seen as like playmakers, or at least seeing that role. But like Magic started that well before LeBron did. Scottie Pippen was the floor general at the wing position, before LeBron existed. So it's like hard for me to give him all the credit there, but I do think that in the modern era, these guys have influenced the game. In any way you want to take that, I think KD has a lot of support from like the professional players, like the guys that he's played against. A lot of the guys in college right now, you talk to them and they'll say KD's the best basketball player of all time. And I think he is one of the best scorers, if not the best scorer of all time. Just his size and his handle, his fluidity as a player, his mid-range game is one of the most efficient that there's ever been. I mean, he's just an incredible player. And I guess I'm kind of getting off topic here about just like what this, the impact of these guys is. But my point is that when you talk about the faces of the league, you need a combination of the best players, the best talents, but also the ones with a lot of fans and support behind them. And so I think when you're talking about who the new five are going to be, obviously Giannis and Jokic are going to be in the mix for quite a while. You've seen the longevity of LeBron and Steph and KD. If I had to pick a five today, I would say probably like Shai, Luka, Tatum, Anthony Edwards, and then Wembanyama. I would say those are the five of, young guys on the come up that really genuinely have that face of the league type of potential. Because you're never going to have just one face of the league. You're just not, Magic and Bird. Obviously, Jordan was, a part on those years, but, you still had guys like Hakeem and Ewing and, tons of great players. Shaq was coming on the Orlando Magic at that time. You had plenty of guys that were very recognizable to, the average fan, that I don't think you can just say one player is the face of the NBA. And it's always been a collection of talent. And I think a five spot is kind of the perfect balance where you're getting enough of the top tier talent all to get recognition, all to be celebrated, but at the same time, you're not like trying to act like everybody contributes the same value, right? Like these guys are star players. The NBA is a star-driven league. A lot of people don't like the star stuff. That's why they watch college ball. And, I have respect for that. But I think the best part about the NBA is seeing the faces of the league just go toe-to-toe. If I watched Shai and Tatum the other day, I think it was Wednesday, but that game, OKC versus Boston, it was really, really back and forth. Obviously, OKC comes away with it, but Shai and Tatum going back and forth, trading buckets all game long, that's what, the best part of the NBA is. Like Miami LeBron versus OKC KD, those battles back and forth, like bucket in response to one another. That's the type of stuff that people love about the NBA. And that's why you can't say, oh, there's only one face. Anthony Edwards is the face. First of all, Anthony Edwards doesn't want to be the face. That's a different conversation. Jason Tatum seems to want to be the face, and I think if you have to pick one of those 5 new generation players, it's either Wembanyama or Tatum. And Tatum would have to be like a dynasty in Boston to be the face of the league. But if him and, Jaylen Brown end up going, on a three-peat here, I think it's a different conversation than, it's a one-and-done ring the way Jokic and Giannis were. I think that you're definitely going to have a dynasty one way or another. It's coming soon. There's been too much parity in the league. I do think Boston is at least in a great position, but they're going to have to maximize and, capitalize on the opportunity. But I think that if that does happen, you could say Tatum is the face. Like he's going to be the guy that gets marketed. But I don't know. It doesn't feel like the NBA wants to market Jason Tatum. Early in his career, I think the playoff success, like getting to the conference finals, game 7, like game away from the finals as a rookie, sets pretty high standard for your career. Obviously, you get second rounded, and then you go to the conference finals in the bubble, and then you get first rounded with no Jaylen Brown, and then conference finals, and then you lose the finals. So it's just a lot of negativity surrounding all of that. And now that he's made it over the hump, I feel like there's an opportunity now where you can say, all right, well, he has won at the highest level. And if he does get a finals MVP this year, there's nothing that they can say about him. And I also hate the idea that there has to be one face of the league. I know I already said that, but I just detest that completely because there's not one NBA player that you care about. Like, I'm a Jason Tatum fan. I am a Luka Doncic fan. I'm an Anthony Edwards fan. I don't know if I would say I'm a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander fan, but I have respect for him. I'm a Celtics fan above all else, but I love the star players in the league. And ultimately, if I'm going to watch a basketball game that's not a Celtics game, there needs to be some star talent on display. I want to see guys get 40. I want to see guys that are just substantially better than the rest of the pack go and get theirs. That's what I like about basketball. That's what the appeal of the NBA is. You have the best of the best, and I want to see those top 10 guys go head to head and have battles. And it's not to say that a good defense is boring to watch. I don't think that at all, and that's why I think OKC really has a good shot at the title this year, is mainly because of their defense, their versatility, and especially with the way they match up with Boston. I'll have a whole, ton else to talk about with that, so I'm going to save that for all, different videos and whatever, but I just think that the NBA is obviously, so talented, and I love the stars in the game. And I think that when you talk about, who's going to be the face of the league, you at least need to acknowledge that it's never going to be a consensus one guy. Because even when you have LeBron James, some view him as the best player that's ever played basketball, there were still periods where Steph was as popular as he was. And there's times where Steph has beat him on the biggest stage. Obviously, say what you want about their respective surrounding supporting cast, whatever. LeBron and Steph are 1A, 1B to me. I think Steph, really, if he had his own era to dominate the game, how Kobe kind of comes into the game 7 years ahead of LeBron. If their careers were like that, instead of LeBron coming in 7 years before Steph did, I think you look at Steph Curry as potentially a top 3 player ever. I don't think he makes that conversation with the limited amount of finals MVPs. The Iguodala one, we all knew he got robbed, but when KD came in there and he won those two, that was really the end of that. But it's just the day and age that we live in. The Brandon Jennings of the world, Colin Cowherds of the world are going to say things about Jason Tatum. They're going to say things about Steph Curry. They're going to say things about LeBron James. I mean, Skip Bayless made a whole career out of it. And I think at the end of the day, hating on greatness and rage baiting all of these fans ultimately brings you that source of viewership when you otherwise had no substance to talk about. And it is unfortunate that that's the state of NBA media right now. And I think when you talk about, the face of the league, it's hard to talk about the new stuff and the new guys when we're rehashing the GOAT debate for the 7th time this month and bringing on Kai Cenat for no reason on the ESPN. You might as well bring me on. At the end of the day, we're just not moving in the right direction. We're not moving in a direction where journalism is getting more ethical. It's getting substantially less ethical as we move on. And I'm not talking about the NBA centels of the world. Like, troll accounts on Twitter are not the issue. The fact that a journalist who gets paid like millions of dollars to talk about sports sees an account called NBA Centel, doesn't fact check it, doesn't even click on the account to see that it's a fake account, literally just takes it, the word face value, and then just puts it on their platform. And it's just a complete lack of understanding. This definitely has devolved off of the conversation that I was trying to talk about, but these are all very valid points that are all very important to me about the media and the state of the NBA. It's just not in a great place. I'll definitely have to make another video about all my issues about how NBA basketball gets covered. Like, it's definitely not in a great space, and I think a lot of it has to do with social media. A lot of it has to do with negativity being the new most marketable way to get your attention. And when you talk about the face of the NBA, Gilbert Arenas said this, made a really good point, and said that the guy who is the face of the NBA is the one that's getting hated on the most, or just the face of any sport, right? Patrick Mahomes, right now, face of the NFL. Undisputed. He's the face of the NFL. I don't like the Chiefs. I don't like Patrick Mahomes. And I don't like that people are trying to say that he's better than Tom Brady. But think about when Tom Brady was in the league. He was the most hated because he was winning. They hate who wins. Whoever's the winningest player in the league is going to get the most hate. And whoever gets the most hate is going to get the most attention. Whoever gets the most attention, you got it, is the face of the league. So I would say it's silly to try and pick one. It's silly to try and say, okay, this guy's the face over that guy. Because at the end of the day, you've got at least 5 guys that you're going to put on these, graphics on ESPN or on NBA, social media accounts and stuff. Like, you're going to have multiple players that are going to be on these repeatedly, and it's always going to be the top talent. It's going to be the most marketable guys. It's really great, despite what the American ideal of, we want Americans to be good at this sport. We don't want the foreigners coming over and, like, that's so stupid. That's so dumb, because Luka, Giannis, Jokic, guys like that, even Shea with Canada, like, these are foreign players, foreign-born players that, especially when you look at guys like Luka, who literally came over from Europe straight to the NBA, no college, no nothing, like, just started dominating. That's the type of stuff that really inspires people overseas. It spreads the game. That's good for the game of basketball. It's good for the NBA. It brings a lot of viewership, and foreign viewership is something that helps expand the game. And I think the more eyes you have on basketball, the better. The more people want to, look up to these stars, the better. And that's how you market the sport as a whole. So you need these stars. You need the Sheas, the Lukas, the Tatums, the Giannis's, the Jokic's, the Anthony Edwards, Wembanyamas. Like, you need those people. You need them. You depend on them to survive in this league. And at the end of the day, like, they are the faces of the league, despite what anyone on Twitter wants to say about it.